Welcome back to this edition of Grizzlies Daily. My name is Melek, and I want to shout out Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. You can scan this QR code right up here. I hope I'm putting it the right way. You scan it right here. You score $75 in bonus entries for your first $5 that you deposit. So make sure to scan this QR code, sign up, and take advantage of this beautiful deal, because not only does it help me, it helps you all in playing and winning some money. So shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. We'll talk about them more as we go along. Now let's talk about the real deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. Obviously, wearing the Broncos jersey, I'm happy. And the Grizzlies made me even more happy. 126-109 win in London. And Ja returned, and he turned in fashion. 24-point double-double. Have it right here. 24 points, 5 rebounds, 13 assists, only 2 turnovers. I love what I saw. I loved everything about this. Majority of this was done in the first half, I should add. What's interesting is he played 28 minutes. And Isolo said before the game that he was on a minutes restriction. I don't really know how that works. He played 28 minutes. I guess Isolo was like, hey, you look good. I'm going to keep you in. Which is exactly what I'd like to see from Isolo. You know what? Hey, look, I know this is one of the better games for the Grizzlies this year, but this is also one of the better coaching games by Isolo. I cannot lie. He did his part. With these rotations, I liked what I saw. He distributed the minutes well, even keeping the starters in longer than he did. I liked what I saw. Jalen Wells looked really good. Well, I ain't going to say really good, but compared to his last few games, he looked really good. 10 points on 3 threes. I like that. I liked what I saw. Cedric Howard, 13 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Like what I saw from him. Santi was in the starting lineup, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Not, like I said, not the biggest person when it comes to this. When it comes to Santi, he did what he could. And then Jaren, 30 minutes, 17 points, 7 to 15, 2 of 4 from 3, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Only 3 fouls, which I think he had at like the third quarter, 2 blocks and 1 steal. Overall, great game defensively from the starting lineup. That's why the Grizzlies were up by 30, I want to say. I want to say it was 32 or either 30. Basically, they had their way with the Magic. And that's what I like to see from this team, because we've always said this team is more talented than their record shows. And even off the bench, Jock Landale, 21 points, 9 of 11 from 3. I mean, not 9 of 11 from 3. That's crazy. 9 of 11 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3, 8 rebounds. I'm looking at it, 2 blocks, 1 steal. Overall, great game from him. Liked what I saw from Jock. He was doing a little bit of everything. I like that. Even Cam Spencer, 10 points. It felt like he was going to be on a heater at some point, so I was really waiting for it, but I liked what I saw from him. I really do appreciate it. And another thing, John Conchar, 4 steals, 1 block. I ain't mad at it. Do your thing, JD. Only thing, though, I need Bud to stop shooting the ball. I'm sorry. I need him to stop shooting. The 3 ball just isn't falling for him. So that's the only thing. Really, that's all I saw from this game. And they followed the game plan that I had set in stone. It didn't work in Berlin, but it worked in this game. You make Paolo Banchero shoot the ball and let him get to the paint. He went 7 to 20, 1 of 4 from 3, only 16 points. You took him out of the game, essentially. Desmond Bane also struggled. Anthony Black did his thing. Franz Wagner did okay. Wendell Carter did his thing. Overall, they took the Magic out of the equation completely, and that's what we like to see. Really wish we could have held that lead in Berlin and we went 2-0, but overall, I'm not complaining. Great job on the win, Grizz. Let's do it again on Wednesday against Atlanta. Now, let's talk about the latest on these Ja Morant rumors. I have good news. Basically, if you don't know, after the game in London, Ja essentially said, he stood on his stance. We finally heard from him. Now, we knew his stance, but we finally heard it. He said that he's a loyal guy. The logo on his back, the tattoo, is the Grizzlies. That should tell you exactly where I want to go. And then he said, he basically just, shut down the trade rooms. That's all we wanted to hear from Ja. So glad we finally heard it. And then it also came out multiple times that a lot of teams, including Miami, are starting to pull away from their offers, mostly because they're starting to realize that they can't get what they get for Ja usually. So that was that right there. Miami, I think they said they pulled out of their deal, but are pulling out of it potentially because basically I believe they don't want to get in the way of trying to get Giannis, so That was one thing right there that I think kind of took it away from the deal. But it's good to hear from Ja essentially denouncing this 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 these trade rumors. That's the word I'm looking for. So it's good to see that. Good to see that he wants to stay in Memphis, even though we already knew that. It's just a matter of what the future holds. And if I got to be honest, and this is a hot take for me, I think you move on from climbing. Just being honest, I think you move on from climbing. I think I'm gonna stand on my stance that Ja doesn't get moved anywhere. Not just because of talent, but just because of the way the team plays when he's on the court. And it also gave me a glimpse of what the future does hold, because you see a team like that, you see what Jock Landale did, you see what the others are doing, and you add Zach Edey to the equation and the entire Jerome, you got something going, and obviously you get some good trade targets. I think you do have a good roster, but like I said, I think if it comes down to it, I don't think in the near future we could see Zach Kleiman, just because I think he's peaked as a GM. But that's only if the franchise cares, if they want to see improvement. That's just to me. But before we go to the next topic, I do want to shout out Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back. And Underdog is the best place to get on all the action. Playing on Underdog is very easy. You just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. You get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at a good amount of games because I've actually gotten some pretty good wins recently. So shout out to Underdog for that. In this game, in this week today, I have Tyrese Maxey. I actually got him going higher on 29.5 points and playing the Pacers. And then hot take, and I mean strong hot take, I actually got Keontae George going lower than 23.5 points against the San Antonio Spurs. I think this is a game where he struggles in. So gonna play that, and I think it's worth the win. Ignore that. You download the Underdog app today. You can do it by scanning this QR code right here. Like I said, you score $75. I'm pointing the wrong direction. Scan it right here. You score $75 when you play your first $5 when you deposit it. And you do it by just using promo code Basketball Fan. That's, once again, Basketball Fan right here at the bottom. Underdog is where you make picks, you win money. So shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Simple as that.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-878 or text HOMI 467-369.
All right, so let's get back into it. I think I got some targets for the Grizzlies to go after because, like I said, I don't think they trade Ja Morant. I don't think they do it. And the more I think about it, we did talk about Jalen Tyson. We talked about him, and he showed me every reason why I think he's a good trade target for the Grizzlies. Simple as that. If you don't know, his last game against the Sixers, 39 points, 13 to 17 from the field, 7 of 9 from 3, 6 free throws. Doing a little bit of everything. I am starting to become a big fan of the Jalen Tyson guy. Not just because of his recent play, but just because he's very efficient. Like, I'm very efficient. 13 points a game, 52% from the field, 47% from 3, and 75% for the free throw line. And all while giving you 5 rebounds and two assists. I like this Jalen Tyson guy. I think if there's a world where you move on from someone, I think, like, if you move on from let's just say a Jalen Wells, let's just say him. If they decide to move on from somebody like Jalen Wells, I would say go after him. I would say try to get what you can for Jalen Tyson, because I think he's ideal for this team and this system. He's another scorer, which gives you a chance to kind of work around Josh, Cedric Howard, and Jaren Jackson Jr. You got more guys touching the ball and doing more with it. So I think he's a guy that essentially would be very, very good for this team. When it comes to other targets, I see some that I don't know if I'm really just a fan of, if I'm being real. I know they have players like Nick Claxton or Jared Allen for us to go after. Yes, a backup center would be very good, so I'm not totally against that, especially if they decide to finally move on from a Brandon Clark or, Brandon Clark or, Conchar or somebody, just to move on from that. Even Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who I don't see the Grizzlies really keeping on the team, if I'm being honest. I think he's somebody that shouldn't last past the deadline, but if he does, he does. So that's how I really feel about that. Honestly, I think the asking price for Jared Allen might be a little too much, so you might have to go back down to Nick Claxton. It just depends on what the Cavs want. But if you could find a way to package Jalen Tyson and Jared Allen for, I don't know, Jalen Wells, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and somebody else for another pick for 2 picks, I say this is a pretty good deal. I genuinely say this is a pretty good deal. Even if you unfortunately throw G.G. Jackson in the mix, I think you can find a good package for Jalen Tyson and Jared Allen. So I would say, if I'm the Grizzlies, I'd be making that call to the Cleveland Cavaliers saying, hey, what do you want? You can't get Ja, you can't get Jaren, but we can offer you something good for these 2 players. I think those are very good, impactful players. I think Jared Allen wouldn't mind being on the bench just because of everything that's going on in Cleveland. But overall, and then their decision to basically direct the team towards Evan Mobley, I think he's somebody that wouldn't mind playing on the bench. So I would say, if I'm Zach Lyman, I'd make that call to Cleveland and say, hey, what can I get for him? As simple as that. Obviously, I'd love to hear y'all thoughts in the comments below. So make sure to give me your thoughts on that or any other trade offers that you have, and we'll make sure to discuss it. Now, let's get into y'all thoughts from the last video, because y'all have been showing so much love to the channel. We are actually at 752 subscribers at the time that I'm recording this, so I really appreciate all y'all. We got a couple comments right here that I want to read out, and then we're going to end the video right here. So this comment says, what would you give up for Jaylen Brown from the Celtics? That is a very, very, very tough one, mostly because people have their thoughts on the Celtics and Jaylen Brown. To me, Jaylen Brown is a number 1 option. He is an all-NBA caliber player. He's proven it. I don't know why we keep having this discussion that he's not. Honestly, I don't know. I think that's too much. I think you give up way too much for Jaylen Brown. I just don't see it. I mean, look, Jaylen Brown is a guy who can play both sides of the ball, but at the end of the day, he is someone, like most players, that need a good supporting cast. The problem is, if you want to get Jaylen Brown, you'd have to give up a good majority of your supporting cast for him, or at least give up an overhaul of picks. So I don't know. But if you can find a way to keep Ja and Jaren and Cedric Coward, and you just throw in a bunch of picks for Jaylen Brown, if it's possible, I'd say do it. The problem is the new CBA. I don't think you keep all these guys in the long term because of the new CBA. So I don't know. I don't know if Jaylen Brown is the guy that I really would trade for. Next comment says, Ja is the problem. He needs to stop worshiping this injury-prone wannabe YN. Dude has been washed for years and is still getting treated like he is some kind of superstar. He's probably the most overrated point guard in the league, like it or not. Keep in mind, this was 2 days ago, so I'm going to give grace. This was 2 days ago. I don't know what he thinks now, all right? So don't come for me. His next comment, we're just going to go to the next comment that says, glad to see Zach taking the season off for real. I want to be used as a viable option on a contending team. Yeah, I think that's the hardest part when it comes to Zach Edey, because it means good that he's recovering. I don't think anybody wants him to essentially rush back, because I'm not going to say the season is a lost cause, but it's just not at a point where we need him to rush back, So I am kind of glad that they diagnosed this problem early and he's getting the help that he needs to stay on the team long term. So I do appreciate that. So I kind of see where you're coming from. Next comment says, if they don't get rid of the coach, they will regret it for the next 10 years. The ownership is trash. Also, for trading away key players and firing coaches. Yeah, the front office has really fumbled some key players. I could go down a rabbit hole, but I think we all know. As far as Easlow, like I said, if he could find a way to coach the same way he did in London, then I'll slowly start to take back what I said. The fact is, he has to be consistent with it. And because that game in London, I literally saw everything that I wanted to see. We saw, a big lead. Then, hey, They may be making a run. Let me rush in the starters back in. That was something I absolutely love to see, and I wish we could see it all the time. So that's the only thing with Islo. This next comment is in regards to the Berlin game. The Grizzlies didn't play enough defense to beat either one in the second half of that game. The other team was shooting and making wide open 3-point shots and getting to the rim with ease. They're just trying to outscore the other team without defending, and that won't get you many wins in the NBA. That is true. When it comes to that Berlin game, that's basically what we saw. And then, just not really getting the rebound, allowing so many second chances, and then just fast break points. It really did hurt the Grizzlies. So, then just going cold like that was really bad. So I definitely do agree with that. Next comment says, even if we were to pull off a dramatic run and make the play-in/playoffs, we won't make it far at all, which is very true. I do think that. At this point, just tip the cap and focus on what you can do next season with picks, and more importantly, focus on getting healthy, work on your game, and continue to build chemistry. I definitely do agree. I think this team doesn't make it far in the playoffs, even barring a run. That's a strong if we're healthy, because I think if we're healthy, teams don't want to see us. Simple as that. Now, as far as focusing on next season with picks, I do agree. Like I said, if I were them, I would see what the asking price is for that Phoenix pick, because Phoenix is exceeding expectations. It's not a lottery pick anymore. So, for right now. So I'd say, just see what you can get for that pick, man. I really do think. Let's read. I'm trying to see which ones are. We'll read this one more comment and then we'll get out of here. This comment says, I'll say it for you. I miss Taylor Jenkins. Islo is trash. I try to give him grace. We got a decent team, even with all the injuries. He still can't find a way to win these games. We have big leads in. That is look, like I said in the last video, I don't necessarily miss Taylor Jenkins, because there were times where I'm like, we need to move on for him. But like I said, this is a case of the grass is green on the other side. If Taylor Jenkins did have this roster, there is doubt in my mind that we would not be a below 500 team. That's just the fact of the matter. I will give him credit for that. Next part of this comment says, I'm not saying we be the number one seed, but at least Jenkins knew how to keep it close enough to allow the players the opportunity to win or steal a game. Even if we lost the game, it still gave us a nail-biter game to watch. We know we lose in these games easily coach before we go into the fourth quarter, no matter how close it is. Let's be real. It's more surprising when we win them than when we lose now. That is kind of true. That's kind of true. I'm not going to say I lose all doubt, but it's more so just like one of those, man, I've seen this story before. Let's just try to hold on to the lead kind of thing. But I definitely do get why you feel that. So I'm not going to doubt you on that one bit at all. But that's going to wrap up this edition of Grizzlies Daily. Really appreciate y'all for tuning in for this video. Like I said, the Grizzlies aren't back, I believe, until Wednesday in Atlanta. Well, no, Wednesday here against Atlanta. And like I said, we'll discuss that. But once again, happy Martin Luther King Day to everybody. Make sure to visit the Civil Rights Museum or just, do community events to help out, because that does go along with his mission and what the Grizzlies usually do every year. So if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified when the next video comes out. And like I said, shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. If you really, really want to score $75 in bonus entries and take advantage of this deal, all you have to do is just deposit $5 by scanning this QR code right here and using promo code BASKETBALLFAN. Just one word, simple as that. As for this edition of Grizzlies Daily, my name is Melek, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Peace.